number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and Stephanie Burke. I don't think did I introduce you guys at the beginning of the first hour?
You know what? I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's because it's kind of like second nature to do it.
Right.
But I was also like rushing because we had a lot of stuff to get to in that first hour. It was a pretty packed first hour.
It was.
So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't dawdling and wasting time.
Maybe you didn't.
If I didn't, I apologize.
That's okay. People know who we are by now anyways.
Especially if they're watching on the Spooky South Coast app and on SpookySouthCoast.com. You know, if you're watching, then that is probably the best way, I think, to see the show.
On YouTube?
Well, obviously, it's the only way to see the show. But
I
think that's the best way to experience Spooky South Coast.
Oh, yeah. People like to see what we're doing here.
Saturday night, interacting with people in the chat room, tweeting about stuff that we're talking about using the hashtag SpookyLive.
Right.
And sharing all the spooky fun with all of your paranormal friends. Because we have a big party here every Saturday night. That's what we like to think of this. A big paranormal party. Just like we were saying with the Salem Con. It's like a little mini version of that every week.
Of course.
Like family coming together, having fun, talking about a bunch of stuff.
And if you can't make it live, let us know where you're listening from. Email us at spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. Let us know your name, where you're from, and what you like about the show.
Yes, please do. And let us know how you found out about the show,
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
Because we're all over the place. So you never know if
we get some pretty crazy emails sometimes.
You don't know if they found us from listening to WBSM.
Right.
You don't know if they found us through the SpookySouthCoast.com website.
Mm-hmm.
Or some of the great networks that we're part of, like the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Right.
Which we are so honored to be part of every week. Art Bell's Dark Matter Radio Network. And also, we had joined the Spike Paranormal Network.
Yes.
But the Spike Network has undergone a name change.
Oh, has it?
And now it is known as the No Box Network. They're going to have a variety of different... It's not going to be just paranormal stuff anymore. It's going to be a variety of different programs on the No Box Network. So we're happy to be part of that.
No, absolutely. Anywhere that you can hear us is awesome. So let us know where.
And I wish I still had my call screen software.
We don't?
No,
it's a mystery?
Not the stuff that I used to like to use.
Oh.
There's something that they're using now. Because, see, during the week, they have producers here.
Right.
That are screening calls and pushing them through. And they know who's calling. And I don't know how they do it.
It's magic.
Because they got rid of the nice program that I used to use. So you'd think that I would just go and find out. Because it's not like I'm not in the next room.
That's very true, Tim. It's very true.
But I just won't get up and walk 2 feet and say to the intern, hey, what exactly are you doing to push that through? But I'll try to remember to do it this week.
Is it because your chair is too comfy?
No, it's more that I don't want to bother them when they're working.
There you go.
They're kids. They're high school kids. So I want them to stay focused on. They're here to learn.
Okay.
They're not here to converse with me. And by the way, just real fast.
Yes.
One of the things that was appealing about working here. Is and they when they put up the thing like you want to join the Fun 107 team,
right?
They put up a blog about it. One of the things that they pushed is free food.
Of course,
there's always free food coming into and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we took it a little bit too far this week.
Did you?
Did you see the video?
I haven't watched the video yet. No.
I went through all that.
But you know how I feel about seafood.
Watch the video. I tried to eat 6 mega stuffies, mega stuffed quahogs. I could only make it through 4. Gazelle ate all 6.
Did he?
Yes.
You only had 4?
I can only eat 4. Now, about an hour before, I had eaten a little tiny, complete meal of beef stew.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to have nothing in my stomach. I wanted to have a little something.
I was going to say, the question was, did you eat in preparation for this, or did you eat not knowing this was coming?
No, I knew it was coming.
Okay.
But that's all that I had eaten. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to have a little something in my stomach because I don't want to just put clams into my stomach. Ugh. That's what I was worried about.
So gross.
And then Gazelle had a taco.
Okay.
He said he had a taco. And I know Gazelle. He went to Taco Bell. He didn't have a taco. He had
I'm going to have to
tacos.
get on board with that. I agree with you.
I don't think... Does anybody go to Taco Bell and have a taco?
No.
Matt Costa. You're like me. Sometimes you're buying dinner for yourself out of the pocket change that you have. I can't imagine that you have ever just had one taco from Taco Bell.
No. I mean, you have the intent when you drive to that... Get up to that drive-thru, you're like, I'm only going to have one taco.
That was me tonight.
But then...
And you end up getting the 12-pack.
Right. The grande meal.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
I think at the drive-thru there is a 2 taco minimum.
Right.
I think so, because I
think
had
so,
to go
yeah.
with 2 tonight. I couldn't just do 1, and I knew I only wanted 1, but I had to do 2.
So
It's like a sickness.
but he claimed he had a taco, and then he had
No,
and then he had 6 stuffed co hogs, and he ate them all. God
Oof,
bless him, with
that's
butter and hot
disgusting.
sauce.
that's disgusting.
So you can see the video at fun107.com.
You shared it on Spooky South Coast
And
Facebook page.
It's called Fun versus Food because it's Fun 107. Fun versus Food. We did that this week, and last week, and I guess this week we're doing a 2-pound burger challenge.
Where?
Max's.
Ah, okay.
So they don't have it on the menu anymore, but they're doing it special just for us.
Wow.
So I have to go eat a 2-pound burger and then come to work
Oh,
and sit all day after having eaten a 2-pound burger. But
I don't know how you do it, my friend.
I don't
I don't
either.
know how.
We'll see what happens. I might not do it. We'll see, see if I get through it. All right, we have a caller who's been patiently waiting for us to stop goofing around. Good evening. You were on Spooky South Coast. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're doing Spooktacular, and you had something that you wanted to share with us or ask us?
A couple of things actually,
Sure.
because I live in, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area, Swansea, Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously there's a lot of paranormal stuff with King Philip's War and Abraham's Rock and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a question. My house has been recently experiencing paranormal activity.
And what kind of things have been happening?
We had a poltergeist who used to mess with the curtains. And I know it sounds like cliche, but he used to move the curtains and stuff.
Well, I mean,
And-
it's not. I mean, it's pretty. It's. I mean, it's not really a cliche. I mean, it's what happens. It's what they do.
I have to go. I'm sorry. I have to go.
Okay. Well, call back if you want to.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hopefully she can get back to us. But I mean, that whole area, and I believe she was mentioning stuff to us in the chat room as well about what was going on.
Right.
But that whole area, in addition to being part of the King Philip's War area, you're part of the Bridgewater Triangle,
Right.
and also the Borden family hauntings extend into there.
Of course.
So that's
Yep.
where Lizzie's summer home was, and,
Right.
and I think that's part of the shadow that lays over that whole area. So I'm not surprised. Plus, there's a lot of water around there too.
Of course there is. Yep.
Like you've got the Taunton River feeding off into all those other rivers, and that's powering stuff up.
Plus, even with the Taunton River and the history of the Taunton River and them finding the artifacts a few years ago from Vikings and everything else, you don't know what went on around there.
But
It's fascinating.
hopefully she can call in
Yeah.
and share some more at another time. We do have another call on the line, and if you want to call in, the number is 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. Good evening. You're next on Spooky South Coast.
Hi. I want to make an order for the delivery for the Bourbon Deluxe. And my son is going to come pick it up, and his name is Mike Roch.
Right.
Right.
I know him very well.
You know Mike Roch?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, I need the Bourbon Deluxe to be very hot because it only is good when it's hot. Okay.
You got it. All right. Thanks for calling.
Wow.
I didn't say I didn't have a call screening software. I just don't have my favorite call screening software.
Right. So we know exactly who you are, just in case you were
we've got
curious.
your number. Thank you very much. And don't think that just because you call from a private line, it makes a difference.
Nope.
So
That'll be fun.
just to be aware, too, the next time that somebody calls in
Yes.
and tries to pull something like that, it's April Fool's Day, so I'm not going to get really angry about it. But the next time somebody does that and calls in and does it, I'm going to put your number out over the air.
Oh, yeah.
So
Maybe some Facebook action, too.
what I'll do is I'll just give out your phone number.
I have a lot of people that'll call it. No problem.
And this show has people listening
Yes.
worldwide. So somebody is listening to this show in New Zealand.
Can we do it anyways?
And that person that lives in New Zealand will be more than happy to call you in the middle of their workday, which would probably be like 2:30 in the morning your time.
If you're lucky, maybe like 5
And
a.m.
they'll just keep calling until you answer.
Yep.
So just putting that out there.
Just in case you wondered who you were dealing with.
Yeah, we don't mess around with those kind of. And listen, sometimes I will actually let a prank call go on a little too long, like I did there.
You know what, though? Real question. Unless you're listening on the internet, what teenager is up listening to WBSM on a Saturday night? Just throwing that out there.
Well, this is Spooky South Coast. So.
Oh, of course. But it's probably an area kid. You're super cool if you're listening to WBSM.
Looking at the area code. Hold on. I'll tell you exactly where they were calling from. Am I not supposed to blow up people's spots? Is that not what I'm supposed to do?
I'm all for it right now.
So that was from New Jersey. So that's why
yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's from New Jersey.
Jersey smells.
So
it's on billboards.
Yeah, you can try calling again, but I'm not going to answer the phone.
Wow. That's even worse.
Do we try it? Do we see who it is? This
You have Amanda Hug and Kiss on line 1.
Good evening. You're on Spooky South Coast.
Hey, I've been experiencing some pretty paranormal stuff around my house, and I would want to talk about it. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Hold bite.
So what happened is that when I was, just relaxing one day, I was just, by myself, and basically what happened is that I'm just, reading a book, going on my phone, the usual biz, and then next thing you know, I hear this sound. It was pretty weird, and it was saying Bobon. I'm like, what? And he.
So what's that number?
I kind of let it go a little too long that time too.
You did.
So, hey, I'm honored. I'm just honored that people think that we're important enough that it's worth your time to call us up and prank us.
It's pretty sad, though.
By the way, you know how I know first and foremost that these calls are all pranks?
How's that?
We never get this many calls.
Right.
That's how I can tell right away. All right, I want to play for you guys this clip.
Come on. We're not going to put their numbers out there?
No. Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that because these are obviously very mature individuals. They're certainly not minors.
You don't think so?
Of course they are.
They sound like they haven't hit puberty yet.
Of course they are. So I don't want to have their moms and dads get all mad because they're getting 45 phone calls in the middle of the night from the Spooky South Coast.
Problem.
The Spooky South Coast audience. So the event that we had a couple weeks ago at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. Excuse me. As I was saying earlier, we were running the Echovox app there. Our buddy Jeff Campbell, who you guys know as the head of the End Zone Militia. Those guys that are in the end zone for the Patriots games.
He's awesome.
He is. And he was there as part of the event investigating with us. And he was running Echovox. And there were some other people in the room. We were in the Morse room where Mrs. Borden was killed. And we had probably like 4 or 5 people total in the room at the time. It was a full house that night, but we were able to break everybody off into smaller groups so that we weren't all on top of each other. And so we're running Echovox. Now, if you're not familiar, we talked about Echovox-X with Danny in the last hour, which, as he was saying, takes these banks of internet radio and takes 100 stations, builds up these banks, and is basically switching all in between them. The original Echovox is built on phonetic sounds. So there's all these pieces of phonetic speech built into these banks, and so you're getting, pieces of speech. So it shouldn't really be spitting out entire words because of the way that it works. Matt, you know more about probability and math than I do, and you're also very skeptical of things. You have to admit that if you're using something that is randomly grabbing phonetic parts of speech, that every once in a while a word is going to happen. Just the law of averages.
Right.
Which I hope my computer doesn't blue screen now because I said that.
Right.
But every once in a while, there's going to put two or three phonetic sounds together in a row that's going to sound like a word. But how much different is it when that word is a direct answer to a question that you're asking? And I will play this clip for you in just a second, but we actually have a call coming in here that might be a real call. We'll see. Good evening. You're on Spooky South Coast.
Hi. I was wondering if any of you hosts, yourself included, could comment on this observation. I had heard quite a while ago that it was after World War II that most people who were sick and died in hospitals. And prior to that, most people died at home or wherever they were residing. Now, I lived in a place recently that was 1807 in New Bedford. And so I figured, I was there for like 25 years, I figured a lot of people died, in that building where I was. So I was wondering if ghosts, most often created by the environment that they suffered in or whatever, and they want to haunt, and whether that is connected to often they're dying there, and whether there's been any surveys about houses being haunted that are older and therefore have a statistical chance of having more people dying there, and not all of them dying without pain or trauma, etc. And so you could comment on that. Plus the following: if people are dying more at hospitals since World War II, what do medical personnel report in terms of any hauntings or ghosts there? So I'll hang on. Maybe I'll have a follow-up question, but I maybe gave you too much to comment on.
No, I can tell you that in my research and in people that I've talked to, just to cover the last part first, a lot of medical professionals will talk about there being experiences in hospitals. A lot of the problem with hospitals is because they are a 24-hour operation, and because there's always something going on, it's not like there's enough downtime to really notice when stuff is happening. But you will hear like ward nurses and people who work maybe in the janitorial end of things that will tell you, at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning on a night when nothing's going on, this place is spooky as hell and things will happen. And a lot of times when these hospitals close, you'll still have guards that will patrol them. Like there's one in Lakeville that is still, is kept under security, and they'll report that things are going on. So just because, people are in hospitals now, don't think that there isn't still some leftover residue of them that stays behind and that can cause activity, because it does happen. Just the problem is the hospitals are usually so busy, they're so worried about the people that are alive in the hospital and keeping them alive that they're not really having a chance to pay attention to the dead. Stephanie, I'll let you handle the question about, the idea of ghosts staying where they died and what the reason might be.
There could be a multitude of reasons. If they had a problem crossing over, or they feel as though they had to stay to finish out a job, or it happened so traumatically that they had an issue crossing over to the other side, so to speak, that would keep them where they are. Some of them choose to, even if they do cross over, to come back to a place that was familiar to them or that had specific memories tied to it, or family members tied to it. So it could be a plethora of different things that hold them there or that make them go back to visit that place.
Now, do researchers go around looking for old houses like the one I was in, 1807, and trying to interview current residents there to see if they've, noticed anything, because there might be more chance due to the fact more people died. A lot of people must have died since 1807, right?
Right, but I'm going to take it from a different perspective than what Stephanie's saying. Stephanie's talking about the spirit making a choice, and I'm going to take it from a different point of view, and I'm not belittling what she said, but I'm just looking at it from a different perspective, and that would be that I think that a lot of times these spirits are trapped because of the nature of their death and because of the fact that it's a traumatic thing.
I said that.
But hold on. And I'm saying that from it's still metaphysical because there's not really physics behind it, but basically it's that act that is causing that rip, and that it's that trauma that's actually the haunting. It's not the person.
Okay.
So it's the idea that, somebody was killed in this house. Somebody was shot to death. So that act is what's haunting, not...
So a residual thing rather than...
But it's not a residual because I still think the intelligence can hang through.
That it has to be violent action. Can't the trauma be that an individual just doesn't want to accept death or is afraid of punishment in the afterlife or whatever?
And that certainly speaks to Stephanie's
And it has
point.
a lot to do with people's religious beliefs or just belief systems in general when they're here. I've met... it's a funny way to explain it, but I've met spirits that have felt that they, weren't worthy of crossing over. They feel like they weren't good enough to, or they were just simply lost, or they were hanging around hoping that they could find their loved ones and take them with them, not realizing that they went before them or went after them. They act very much like we do now. They still have all the human thoughts and all the different woes and things that plague us here until they cross over. So it could be a multitude of different things.
But I do think, too, that you could have a house that, because, Stephanie and I, you could almost call it a fetish, what we have for historic haunted places. Yep. Like, we love these old places that we can get into and check out. But I think if you have a house, we've been in places that are built in the 1680s. And I think that you could have... dozens and dozens of people that have died, maybe even hundreds of people that have died in that house over the years, but none of them will haunt it if they don't have a reason to, or if the circumstances around their death wasn't traumatic enough to leave an imprint. So, just because somebody died there doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily be haunted. I just think that when you have a place that's that old, you have a better chance of there being something that has happened over the years. And then the other part of it too, though, is that people always ask, how come when you're communicating with a ghost, when you go out to these events and you go out to investigations, you're talking to ghosts that are 200 years old and you're not talking to somebody that died there in 1960? Well, I don't know if that's always necessarily the case. It's just when we go to older places, there's been more older people that have died. So we probably, people that have died in a greater amount of time from the present. Well, let me see if I can say people who died a lot longer in the past than the more present people, so they might be the ones that are more prevalent.
It could be that, or I tell people all the time, we'll go into a cemetery from the 1700s, 1600s, and people always say that they see a lot of things and different things happen, but if you go to a modern day cemetery, nothing occurs. It has a lot to do with their belief systems while they were here. Back, especially in our area, they had very, very old cemeteries. We have some of the oldest in the country here on the Cape. And they had the living entrance and the dead entrance. They took everything so seriously, so ritualistic, that we don't do that anymore. Half the people aren't even being buried anymore. They're being cremated. Things are different. Death customs are very different.
I'm glad you brought that up. But do you feel that there's a higher statistical probability of ghosts being in cemeteries that go back when... you get Halloween movies and stories. That
right.
You see that as a cliche, but is that true from your researches?
From research, me personally, to me, might have a different view on it, but older cemeteries, for that exact reason that I just spoke about, is the reason why they tend to hang around. Or if you look into different cultures, you'll hear about keepers of the cemetery or crypt keepers.
Why wouldn't they hang around at the place where they had a trauma? Is the grave site itself a second trauma?
It depends on how they died. Every spirit
and
would
how
be
they
different.
How they looked
right.
at death.
So
well,
some of them...
One last question.
Yep.
I'm going to a lecture tomorrow night on a cemetery in Little Compton, Rhode Island.
Okay.
I don't know what to expect in it, but do you guys have any ideas or knowledge of Little Compton, Rhode Island, and what might be of interest?
I don't. I mean, if anybody does, it's probably Andy Lake.
Yeah,
Who could very well be the one giving the lecture, for all I know.
Well, it's Albert Lees III of Westport.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
I'm not either. But I mean, I don't know what cemetery they're speaking about, if it's located in Little Compton, Rhode Island, or not. But
yeah, well, it is located
okay.
there. I don't know how many there are in Little Compton now.
Yeah, I'm not
There's
familiar.
Usually a bunch in old colonial towns.
Right.
Right, because they're usually family burial grounds.
All right. Well, I appreciate what you were saying there, and I also appreciate you having a sense of humor about these young people doing their April Fool's jokes.
You know, we were young ones too.
Right.
The only difference is we were way cooler than these kids are.
Maybe
Absolutely.
you could join it by recounting some anecdote that either of you used to fool people when you were younger on April Fool's Day.
No,
Do you remember any?
listen, the best fool that I ever pulled on anybody, and Chris posted this earlier, and Matt Costa and myself and Matt Moniz, it was on Halloween. The first time we ever did a live show on Halloween, we told everybody we were going to come in and we were going to tell spooky ghost stories. That was going to be the theme of the night, that we were just going to sit around and tell ghost stories. And in actuality, what we did is we came in and we told everybody that earlier that day there had been a UFO sighting in New Jersey, and that Matt Moniz had driven down there to go and try and check this thing out. And we played it up for a whole hour of, you know, getting live reports. And some of our friends who are ufologists called in and you know, swore this was true, and we're telling them. And it was all just a big hoax we were trying to pull, because it was also the anniversary of the War of the Worlds broadcast from Orson Welles. And we actually got, and what we did is we pulled it all off. And at the end of the hour, you know, I told Matt, I was like, you got to cut the feed. There's government agents outside trying to pull us off the air. And he cuts the feed and immediately goes right into the original Orson Welles broadcast. And it was so great. And people were calling up actually thinking it was real.
And what year was that?
It was, I think it was 2008 or 2009.
Not so long ago that you were a prankster, too.
Right.
Well, I enjoy your show. And if you've got any more April Fool's Day anecdotes, I'll be listening.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you very
you.
much for the call. I'm definitely glad that I took that one, because
Yes.
that was a great conversation. Not so sure about where we're going with this one.
We'll find out.
Good evening. You're next on Spooky South Coast.
Hey, this is Mike Raj. Did you have the Bourbon Deluxe?
Yeah, somebody called for you earlier. You weren't here, though.
Listen, I would handle it one way, but I might be a little
I'm also
hot-headed.
I'm also an employee of this station.
You
and
are.
can face punishment for such. So.
But I'm not.
Right. But I'm responsible. All right, we have a call coming in. It's a local number. Good evening. You're next on Spooky South Coast.
You know, I don't know if you remember this, but you know near White's Restaurant,
Yes.
there used to be a house that they claimed was haunted. Remember that?
Right. Yep. We actually talked about it last week. There was a home at one point that went up for sale, and it ended up being purchased by a funeral home that was down the street, and they were using it as a storage facility. So they would keep the leftover, not the leftover, but they would keep like the unused coffins in there. And so what was happening is, you know, kids were going and looking in the window, and they would see a coffin in the window, and that helped kind of spread the story that the place was haunted. But what's funny is, like, you would think like this story is bogus then, because, you know, it's kind of just urban legend. But police officers would have actually told us over the years that they used to have to go and check out the house because they'd get a report of kids looking in the window and everything. And police officers would pull into the driveway there, and they would swear they would see all kinds of stuff going on in the windows.
Yeah. But I remember that for years. You know, it wasn't recent. It was probably in the 50s.
Right, and I actually wrote about it in my book, Ghost of the South Coast, plug, and I referred to it in the book as the house next to White's, because that's what everybody refers to it as. They said, remember that house next to White's?
Yeah.
And it really is like the most legendary, you know, unknown haunted house around this area.
Well, I had relatives that lived in a house that was built in 1786.
In that house?
Yeah. Wow. They tore it down already. But I remember going down the cellar when I was younger, and the beams were real trees that weren't. You could see where the trees were chopped, and to make like square.
That was in the house that was next to White's?
No.
Oh, okay.
This wasn't a Cushnet.
Okay, because I was going to say, I just remember that being like a more modern home, but
yeah,
it could have been, you know, I say modern. It looked like it was built in the 60s.
Yeah. But this house was built in 1786, and they finally tore it down probably a couple of years ago. But it was still there. I used to see it when I drove by there. I remember hearing about it, and it was built in 1786.
That's the kind of house I love.
Yeah.
You know, there was one that I always wanted in Sandwich that was from the 1630s.
Oof. Well, you know where the Highlander restaurant is? The restaurant.
Yes.
I think I do.
Yeah, well, that piece, that just where the golf course is.
Okay, yep.
That house there was built in 1786.
Wow.
Yeah, but they tore it down.
That's what I want. I want a house like that.
Mm-mm. I grew up in a house like that.
No, I don't want any of these modern places.
Well, I grew up in a house that we used to have the pump for the water.
Oh, wow.
We had the crank phone.
And I thought I had a tough once when I lived in a house that didn't have a shower.
Well, this didn't have a shower. We used to get the water from a hand pump.
I lived in a house that didn't have a shower. It didn't have a tub.
Oh my goodness, you and no tub.
It had a tub.
I
It
know.
was the old-fashioned tub with the 4 legs there. Remember those?
Oh yeah, the clawfoot tubs. Yeah, those are great. My grandmother had one of those. I loved it.
Yeah, but they use them now for the. They use them in backyards now. They use them to put the picture of Christ, or
right? Yeah,
the statue of Christ.
You know what's funny about clawfoot tubs too is like no matter how hot the water was, the tub was always freezing cold, so the water would turn cold very quickly.
Yeah, I remember having to take a bath in those round oval tubs.
Now
that and the stove. They used to take the water from a kettle and pour it in there and empty it out.
I was telling my 12-year-old son the other day. I was like, back in my day, when you took a shower, there was a hot and a cold dial, just like on the sink. And he's like,
right.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. Then, I remember cooking. My aunt used to cook with a wood stove. It always amazed me how she could cook. Bake in an oven that was run by wood.
The former president of the Wareham Historical Society cooks on an open hearth in her house.
Yeah.
And she says she can make a chicken dinner that you wouldn't believe, all on the hearth. So
and
pretty fancy.
They talk about global warming and all that, but years ago, every house on every street was heated by coal stoves.
Right.
So we wouldn't have needed that. Because I remember it being so cold.
In fairness, a lot of those people died of emphysema. So there's that too. Well, thank you very much for the call.
Buddy. Have a
good
nice
night.
evening. Bye now.
All right. We have another call here, which I think is a safe call. Good evening. You're next on Spooky South Coast.
Yeah, I just heard the guy talking about that house near White.
Yes.
This is a long time ago, probably early 2000s. I had a part-time job working for a cleaning crew, and one of the buildings that we did was it was a bank on Union Street near where the downtown police department is. I forget what the name of the bank was, Easton, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So on the 7th floor, because they had the old-fashioned elevators where you needed a elevator operator to go to the top. So on the 7th floor, we had to do, I believe it was the 7th. It was the top floor. And the guy there, we got on the top, like, don't ask me how, but on ghosts. Oh, I know what it was, because he says that top floor was haunted. We didn't believe him. But he was saying, oh, it is, I believe, because he was at that house near White's one night, and he was screwing around with his girlfriend and 2 other boy and a girl, like, messing around, supposed to be haunted. So they were, like, knocking on the house, and something banged on the door from the inside out. They said they just ran for their life. They were so scared. And he was sheet white when he was telling us. He was so scared when he told us this. So we heard the story, and we were joking around, laughing. So we went to go upstairs. We were going to do the floors. And on the top floor, supposedly the men's bathroom was haunted. And they said it was like a sneezing ghost. Like you would go in there and you would hear someone sneeze. And it's a small bathroom. There's like one stall and a urinal. And a person would be in there. This is stories that like the tenants on that floor would tell. They would look for them. There's nothing in there. And then there would be a point where the sneeze sounded like it was right in front of their face.
Wow.
And
of course,
really scared.
You'd hear it and say, God bless you, and then realize there's nobody there.
Yeah, and it's a small room. So we were hearing the story. We were making fun, just joking around like, oh, yeah, okay. So we went in that section. There's like a double door that leads to the bathroom. So we were going to chalk the doors to clean it. We had our machines up there. We're going to do the floors. So we're, saying out loud, okay, don't sneeze on me, ghost, and all this stuff. So the guy with the elevator had to unlock the door. So I made sure it was unlocked because there were heavy wooden doors, and we had to go get more equipment. We come back, the doors, which were completely unlocked, I checked them myself, they're all locked. Now I'm like, wait a minute here. There's no one in this building. This was like a Sunday morning. We go down, tell the guy, and he's getting all weird. See, I told you, you're making fun. So we go downstairs downstairs to get him, to get the doors unlocked. All our equipment moved to the other side of the hall. There's nobody in this building. I tell you, we cleaned that thing so fast and got out of there so fast, the head would spin.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's I love stories like that because we don't get enough of those. Like, you know that in this area with all these great historical buildings, there's all these stories, and we just don't seem to hear them. And it's part of the culture of the area, I think, is that people just don't share their ghost stories.
Yeah, I'm surprised there hasn't been a lot because a lot of people in that building, from what I hear, and the tenants were reporting that. But a lot of times people, they just keep them to themselves. They don't want to say anything.
Well, I'm not trying to pick on any particular culture, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of Portuguese people around here, and when look at an old Portuguese grandmother, you start talking about this stuff, and they start shaking their finger and shaking their head, saying, "No, don't talk about it," and that's because it's bad luck to talk about it.
Or start praying over you.
Right.
Hey, I had one more thing too to change the subject from ghosts to UFOs.
Oof.
Sure.
If anyone in 84, I think it was November 84, had a big like a diamond-shaped sighting over Acushnet, because it was an incredible sighting.
I would have to check with Moniz on that. He's out tonight, but I would have to check with him on that. He would know better than us. But I know that there was, if you see the Bridgewater Triangle documentary in the late 70s, there was a home plate-shaped UFO that was seen in the Bridgewater area. And
I know someone very reliable that told me this, and it was black and like a diamond. If you took a square and you rotated it so it looks like a diamond shaped, going with the point.
Right, that's what they were describing with this sighting. Yeah,
and red lights, and it was completely silent, and it went over Acushnet over towards New Bedford Airport, but. Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah,
absolutely gigantic.
This Bridgewater one that was seen, it was the same type of description. And you want to talk about reliable sources? One of the people who saw it, I can't remember the other gentleman's name. They were both news reporters for I think Channel 7 or 5. Steve Sprasia, I believe, was one of them. And then I can't remember the other gentleman's name. But here's reliable sources saying that they've had interactions with these things. So there's definitely something going on.
I document them, and I put all the sightings together, as many as I can gather. I put them on my site, so I'm just trying to get as much as possible. That's what I want, because other people see sightings.
You gather them and put them. You put them on a website.
Yeah, it's UFO Report Massachusetts.
All right, I was going to say, you definitely want to give the website out so the people. This is the audience, man. These are the people that can help you.
Yeah, it's just Massachusetts. And that's all. I live in Massachusetts. I just want sightings, and it goes back from years and years. But that's what I want, so people can correlate their sightings.
Have you checked in with MUFON?
Yeah, I always check all the databases. You know what I mean, and see what I can get. The National.
The
UFO
Massachusetts MUFON's a little disorganized. I know that. Yeah. So, all right. Well, keep us up to date with the site. Let us know when you get good stuff, and let us know when you get new stuff, current stuff too.
All right, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right, bye.
And I think we have another safe call here we can take. There's one that keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. That's because we think that you're one of the pranksters.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry. Good evening. You're next on Spooky South Coast.
Yeah, hi, Tim. How are you?
Hi. Are you going to try to pull anything on me here?
No, I don't think so. I think you know how to get a hold of me.
I know how to find you.
I just was wondering if anybody won the audio box.
Yes, somebody did during the news break. Yep.
Okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to remind you.
All right.
All right, buddy.
Have a great night. And 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. It's nice to get some real calls here, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
These last couple of callers really restoring my faith in having people call into the show. Whoever's on the line, though, hanging out, you're not restoring my faith.
No.
Can you have the high school kids screen the call? Oh, wait, we don't get one of those. All right, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to play this. I had mentioned before that Jeff Campbell sent me this clip that he caught from Echovox. And it's important to note that this is a recording with Echovox running separately. So it's not like this, because you can, when you have Echovox and Echovox-X, you can record directly onto your device and save the recording. So you can go back and listen to it later on. You want to say, I think I heard this, but I'm not totally sure. You can save the recording and go back and check it out. But it's also good to run another recorder while you're investigating so that you know what questions were being asked, and that way there you know if it's a direct response. So that's what Jeff was doing. And again, this is in the Morse room of the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. And I think if I do this right, I'm at the right spot. Now, keep in mind, by the way, this is phonetic speech, so you're going to hear like little bits and pieces. If you've never heard Echovox before, it takes a little bit of getting used to. Wait, what do you mean you can't open the media file? Hold on. I think I left it sitting there too long. I'm just going to reload it again real fast. But what'll happen is you're hearing these little bits and pieces come through, and then it will turn into words. And, you put the echo on it, and that helps. You put the reverb on it, that helps as well. And what ends up happening is you'll hear not just words. I mean, my experiences with Echovox is not just words. The first time I ever used it, I got full sentence responses, which is what made me really intrigued by it. And that's why I've always used it every time I've gone out on another investigation ever since. All right, let's see if I can bring this in now.
Maybe we're talking to the wrong person. Is it not Mrs. Borden in here? Is there somebody else?
What is your name?
Did you hear that?
Abby.
Oh my god.
I heard that.
And what's funny is that, I'm going to play that again. What's funny is like right before that, you hear him say, maybe we're talking to somebody else, and you hear, it even says Abby then too. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Which is surprising.
Maybe we're talking to the wrong person. Is it not Mrs. Borden in here? Is there somebody else?
See Abby there.
Mm-hmm.
And right here, it's really clear.
What is your name?
Abby.
And I think it actually says Abby Lisbeth.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I'd have to hear it one more time.
I can do it one more time.
Mrs. Borden in here? Is there somebody else?
What is your name?
Abby.
Yeah.
Abby.
Oh my god.
And then
I heard that.
it'll keep going.
That was a nice phrase.
Look at that. Point 3. It's went right back. So are we speaking with Abby right now?
This is Abby.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you for speaking with us.
I love that one right there. Did you hear that? I don't know.
Oldest sister.
What he says, thank you for speaking with us.
This is Abby.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you for speaking with us.
Welcome.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool. And it goes on. It actually gets more intense from there. But I thought that was pretty cool. So, I mean, it sounds like it to me. It sounds like Abby.
Abby Elizabeth is what I heard.
Two Abbies. And then, it says Abby, and then it says Abby Elizabeth. And then when he says thank you, it says welcome. So, I don't know. I thought it was pretty awesome. And what's interesting about that, too, is with Echovox, it's not like an EVP where you have to go back and listen to it later on and see if you caught anything. That's happening real time. So you have the opportunity to keep the conversation going. And I still will always remember that night at the Pierce Mansion in Gardner where, I mentioned the name.
Stop that right now.
I'm not going to mention the name, but as soon as I mentioned the name and all hell broke loose, the Echovox kept repeating the name over and over again.
Yep.
So that's why I like it. I mean, it's
for somebody that is not a fan of apps. I am absolutely a fan of Danny's apps.
And I do want to say too, by the way, if you're going to prank call us, it doesn't matter if you call from a different number. When it comes in saying New Jersey, I've already determined that that's the prank caller still.
Oh, they're hitting up our chat room right now, thinking that we don't know what's going on.
Apologies if you are a person that's actually calling from New Jersey, but sorry, we can't help you right now with that.
It's sad.
Hey, whatever. Whatever they want to do on a Saturday night, that's fine with them. With me, as long as they stay respectful in the chat room.
Right.
Otherwise, Nightbot's going to come out with his banning powers. Right, Matt? Nightbot?
I already said that.
What's up?
Nightbot can lay waste to those kids in the chat room if he wants to.
You guys can ban them too.
Yeah.
Why not? I like to use Nightbot.
Nightbot's fun.
I don't know if Nightbot actually does the banning.
You can.
But I want to put it all on Nightbot. Makes us sound like we have like a special helper.
Yep.
Stephanie, if you see the ones who are in there being smartasses, feel free to ban them.
Oh, don't worry.
I think she has admin powers, right, for that?
Yep.
So there you go. Well, if anybody does have legitimate questions, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. You can also email us, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com, and you can also type them into the chat room as long as Stephanie doesn't ban you. Now you know the real power that Nightbot has.
God, if they only knew who they were dealing with.
Well,
it'd be so much fun. Actually, it's more fun if they don't know.
We do have a call coming in. Let me check it. All right. Ready? Here we go. Listen, smartass. Stop calling in. We've had enough of you already. I'm going to report you to the police.
We get all your info.
He's stunned. He doesn't know what to say.
Aw.
I don't know what to say because I missed like the last 2 seconds, but then I got the radio must have caught up with the live feed.
It was a little sad that you didn't respond faster. I'm not gonna lie.
I
took a minute because I didn't realize if I was on the air or not.
Oh, no,
you were.
As soon as I saw your name pop up, I was like, I'm totally messing with him now.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I needed that.
What's going on? How are you tonight?
Oh,
Ross?
nothing much. I'm good. I've been busy, but I've been scatteredly listening tonight. But I was just kind of calling in about the Echovox.
Yes.
You know, I know he hasn't launched the other one yet for the iPhone, but the app that's out now is really great.
Yeah, I think he won't be. He was saying during the interview, you got to watch your head there.
You know what?
Stephanie.
These headphones are too wide.
But as Danny was saying earlier, there's issues with the Android with the Apple software for the reverb, which is the issue that he's having with it. So I don't think it's a matter of like if it comes out for Apple, I don't think it's going to be able to.
It's gonna.
But you know, I mean, like he was saying, you can go out and you can see. Here's the thing: like for people that are like, oh, you know, I don't have an Android phone. That's not fair. Listen, just go to the pawn shop. Go to Walmart and buy one of those clearance. You know how they always have on clearance those like net to go and all those like whatever cheapy cell phone plans. You know the burner phones. You can go out and get any one of those phones. You can get them for like $20. You can go on eBay. You can buy an old Android phone for $20. It doesn't matter. And basically, all you're going to do is you're going to load that app onto it with Wi-Fi in your house, and now it's basically like having an Ovilus or any other handheld device. That's now your Echovox device.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you're better off doing that than having it on your actual phone, because now you don't have to worry about, you can use your phone to record the video of you using it, or you can have your phone available to make calls while you're using it, or for other things. So, I mean, I don't see why people are making such a big deal out of it.
Well, that was kind of my issue with having it on my actual phone or my tablet, because it's like it just seems like all the other apps and everything just would probably interfere with it.
Right. I mean, and when you look at
it makes sense.
If it was the opposite way, if it was only out for Apple and you couldn't get it for Android and you had to go out and get like a secondhand Apple device, you'd be screwed.
You'd be paying $500 for an iPad, or I mean, I know you can get cheap used iPads,
but not as cheap as you can go get a cheap Android phone.
Yeah, and you can get a brand new Android for lesser than you would an Apple, an Apple device.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You know, it can be the most basic phone as long as it runs. You know, as long as it has enough space. And like Danny was saying, it's a very, very small app for Echovox-X. It's less than a megabyte. So less than
not bad.
I forget how much he said, but it's
looking
small.
forward to maybe trying it out someday.
Well, you know, you can always come by here and mess around with mine.
Sure.
So wait, I mean my app. Let's keep it clean. Family show.
I take it you guys aren't. Are you on the actual radio tonight? I thought I.
Yes.
No, yeah, we're on the radio. Yeah.
Okay.
We're keeping it a little looser than usual
We
tonight.
yelled at you live on air.
Yes.
Already?
I called you a smartass over the airwaves.
Yes,
I'm going to
right.
get an FCC fine for that.
That's okay. Well, what can you do, right? At least it's not some prank caller from New Jersey.
Right. Well, we've got their numbers now, so I'm looking forward to it about 3 hours from now. Giving them a call.
We got more than that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Unfortunately, I was keeping a little eye on the NCAA champion. So.
Well, that's all right. We appreciate you checking in with us. And
I know.
Thank you very much for the call.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
You too.
Okay.
That about does it for this week's show. We're out of time.
It's a little sad. I'm not gonna lie.
I know we were having fun, but that's what happens. Our time here is short. We have to make the most of it. And I think we did tonight. I think we had a great conversation.
I think so,
A lot
too.
of great conversations.
Yeah.
Great calls. Not so great calls as well, but the ones who were legit were awesome.
I love when people call in and tell us their stories and ask us questions about us in the field.
And if you're not comfortable calling in and doing it, you can do it via email, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. You can hit us all up on Twitter. You can download the free Spooky South Coast app. Ours is actually available for Android and Apple devices, so you can get it on either one. If you have BlackBerry, get with it. It's 2017. Why do you have a BlackBerry? And if you have if you have a Newton, you're really screwed too. So that does it for this week's show. We'll be back next week to talk more about the paranormal. And as I said, you can find us all week long. SpookySouthCoast.com. You can hear us rebroadcast on the No Box Network and on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And I think that's all I have. Anybody else? Anything else? All right. Well, then, until next week, for Matt, for Stephanie, for Chris, for Melody, I'm Tim. We want you all to stay spooktacular.